Welcome back to Benny's Custom Works, proudly supported by Sparesbox and Valvoline. Today we're back on the IS200 again. We're continuing with our LS conversion. Today we're going to be fitting things like our transmission shifter and hopefully plumbing most of our brake system. So we're going to be deleting the ABS unit completely. We did mention that in the previous episode, however you may not have caught that. We've also got our clutch master cylinder installed now as well. So with the factory Toyota ABS unit, it actually jumps a return hose off the top of the ABS unit back into the brake master cylinder. Luckily for us, our new clutch master cylinder actually has a remote reservoir mount on it. So I think what we're actually going to do is use the nipple that was going to the ABS unit to actually supply brake fluid to the clutch master cylinder. I think that'll make it a much neater install, and then it means we don't have to mount a separate reservoir for that unit. Many OEMs actually do that and run the brake master cylinder and the clutch master cylinder reservoir off the same tank. So there'll be no problems with doing that in this particular setup. So we'll basically start ripping it apart first. Then we'll start planning on how we're going to lay the lines out. We are still actually waiting for the T-pieces and flare nuts to arrive. The tracking is showing that those should be here this morning. So hopefully by the time we strip all this sort of stuff out, that stuff will be here, and then we can just keep continuing as planned. This is the Malex transmission shifter that we talked about last episode. We've just recently received this from the guys at Malex. So it's a really nice unit. It's primarily billet aluminium. We've got quite a lot of machining going on with this thing. There's quite a lot of parts to it. So this is 100% made in Australia as well, so really cool. This is basically the transmission shifting mount. So the front end bolts to the transmission itself, to what would be a shifter blanking off plate on the top of this T56 transmission. And then there's two bolt holes further to the back of the bracket, which has a clamp that goes around the shift shaft on the back of the transmission. So it's super nice and firm, mounts really well. And another feature I like, they've got some slots on the side here to mount a vehicle speed sensor, which combines with their 1350 adapter yoke. So basically you sit in approximately this position here when it's installed, and then you've got a super accurate vehicle speed sensor input, because the VE-T56 doesn't actually have a speed sensor in the transmission or a provision for it. So it's quite hard to retrofit something into that gearbox without a lot of machining. So yeah, they've come up with a super simple solution that works really well. And this will actually even work with the factory VE transmission, or sorry, the VE ECU. So if you do decide to do your conversion and stick with a standard VE style ECU, this will work. So you don't have to go getting converters or anything like that. But super nice bit of gear. We're going to assemble this thing on the bench, then we're going to fit it to the car. So let's keep going. We've got our shifter bench assembled. We've also got our vehicle speed sensor mounted on the shifter. I have left the mounting screws a little bit loose because we are going to have to set the air gap on this sensor once the tail shaft's final fitted. The only thing I have done is remove this, basically the shifter part of the unit, because I'm going to mount it to the transmission end first, because it's quite tight on the top of the box when we're getting it in the car. So it'll be a ton easier to actually connect it to the shift post rather than trying to get it on the transmission once we've installed this bracket. So depending on the vehicle you're installing it into, you may have those same clearance issues on the top of the box. So it will be a lot easier to fit this up to the box first, then to the shifter, rather than trying to get your hand in there once this is mounted, because this does actually take up a fair bit of real estate once it's in the tunnel. It's not eating up too much space, but it's definitely going to make it a lot harder to get this piece onto the transmission end. So we'll throw this on first, then we'll put the shifter in. because we're still waiting on some of our brake components, we've actually moved on to having a look at how we're going to make the headers. We've just put our flange plates onto the cylinder head face, and we're just putting our ignition leads back in. I know this may be blatantly obvious to some people, but make sure when you are manufacturing headers that you refit your leads and your spark plugs before you go even planning on how to route stuff. I have seen headers in the past that make it almost impossible to replace spark plugs, so yeah, very much keep this sort of stuff in mind when you're making stuff, because you're more likely going to be the person servicing it down the track. So yeah, be conscious of this sort of stuff, because it can make your job a lot harder later on. So I gave up on the headers already and we're back onto brakes. The courier turned up, so now we've got all our bits to continue our original plan. I've had a little bit of a quick look at the headers, and first and foremost, the header kit that we've bought, the tubing doesn't actually suit the collectors, which I've purchased from a different seller. So I'm probably going to have to get the collectors expanded a touch. It's so close, but I think they were probably designed for stainless steel, 1 3/4 tube, and we've got mild steel for the header kit. Primarily just for cost. If we did that same kit in stainless, it would have been probably triple the price. So doing it out of a mild, I don't think it's really going to have an issue. We'll probably end up getting them ceramic coated. So between coating them and doing them in mild, will still be way in front than if we just put them in stainless and then did them not coated. So yeah, today's going to be a little bit of an up and down video, but hopefully by the end of the day we'll have all of our brake system plumbed. I'll be yelling at a brake flaring tool because I've forgotten the backing nut about 20 times, but you guys will enjoy it more than we did, so we'll keep going. We've ticked a few more tasks off today with the IS200. We've got all of our braking system done, so we've deleted our ABS unit completely. We've made all new lines from front to back, which go through our brake bias valve, so it means we can adjust our front to rear split. We've also gone through our hydraulic handbrake, run a line down through the floor. We've got rubber grommets on the floor. We're waiting for a grommet for the firewall. We've got our Malex shifter installed, so we've made a heap of progress. Unfortunately, still a ton of parts to turn up. We haven't got a clutch yet. Our header kit did turn up today, but it looks like it's not going to work with our collectors, so we need to work out with that. So yeah, there's a fair few things. And I think looking at the kit, the header kit that came, we're still going to need a lot more bends than what they've supplied. So yeah, definitely things to work out with that. But all in all, got another good day in. I'm probably going to do another day of electrical before we film again, purely because it's just so boring for you guys to watch. Because it's going to be more of this type of deal, cutting up that loom, peeling tape off, pulling wires out, hopefully not pulling the wrong wires out. But yeah, it's definitely moving forward. I'm really happy with the progress. But yeah, every day I just got to keep that momentum up. Like any project, the second you slow down, it means that you're going to get stale and get over it. So I've really got to be conscious of trying to keep the momentum and pushing forward. So I'll try and get the dash beam in and modify the dash harness before we film again. So then when we do film, we can put the dashboard back in, we can remount the steering column, then we can finalise our steering column position so we can actually make headers. The driver's side is going to be a massive task because we're going to have to split that header either side of the steering knuckle. The passenger side is not going to be too bad, there's plenty of room, so we're happy with that. Then once we've finalised all of that, motor and box will come out, we'll weld our mounts up, we'll replace the clutch and the flywheel and our concentric slave cylinder. Then that means we can run our bleed line and also our hydraulic line to the clutch master. That's all mounted now too. We've got an aftermarket kit to adapt a different master to that. And the biggest bonus of the day, the thing I'm most proud of, is actually picking up the brake fluid outlet on the reservoir and running that to the clutch. Something super simple, but I really like it and it's really neat and it seems to work really well. So plenty to happen. We'll keep bashing away at it. Thank you to everyone who's been watching. Thank you to Sparesbox. Thanks to Valvoline. Thank you to Malex for their support too. Their products are fantastic. I can't believe how well they're actually made. But yeah, stoked to be chipping away on this thing. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.